Hello. 皆さんこんばんは。モニラ・アルカディリ。
Hello, my name is Monira Al
お願いします。
Qadiri.
私は昔日本に長く住んだことがある。
So I have lived in Japan for quite some time, so I'd like to speak in Japanese.
私の今までの
So many of my past works have a very personal background.
自分の制作
So what my production process went through to arrive at this kind of expression is something which I'd like to introduce today together with my personal story.
まず私は
First,
セネガルで
I was born in Senegal and grew up in Kuwait, and I attended the university in Japan, moved to Lebanon, and then to the Netherlands, and I now live in Berlin, Germany. So I have moved around the world, so I think I am a kind of cultural Frankenstein. I think I would be appropriate to call myself as mutant. So in this April, at my solo exhibition, that was the biggest exhibition which I've had. So I put the title as Mutant Passages. The event was held in Quest House Briggen in Austria, and using this wonderful 4-story buildings designed by the famous architect Peter Zumthor as a sort of stage to climb up from the bottom of the top, and the structure was designed to reveal the conceptual stages of the work. And here, the word mutant also refers to my own cultural background. It also refers to material substance that can take on any number of forms and undergo any number of the transformation. The substance is oil, petroleum. I am from Kuwait. I have many mixed feelings about this oil. Oil is the largest source of income for the country, but it is also the most destructive substance that pollutes the world's environment. I have been thinking about oil for more than 10 years and have created various works. I have condensed them all into this one exhibit, which I think is a good way to explain my ecological and personal thoughts and concepts. First of all, when you enter the ground floor through this entrance, you see the benzene float. You will see this huge sparkling inflatable balloon work. I wanted to create a space that was a little cramped, suddenly surrounded by very large objects. These are actually petrochemicals, which we use every day for a variety of purposes. The shape is based on the models and diagrams that scientists use to describe these chemicals. It has this slightly balloon-like shape. I created this work like benzene, naphthalene, and propane, which is usually not visible, but I try to emphasize how large a place they occupy in our daily lives and how much of the presence they have in our daily lives. And the color has this iridescent, slightly animated surface or expression, which is a longer story and will be explained on maybe the next work. If you go up, there is an alien technology. This is a series of my art pieces. And this series is actually the first series of sculptures when I first started thinking about oil. What is this shape? This is the oil drill. Actually, they have various shapes, and the real ones are not that big, but this is small enough to fit through a pipe. The size is emphasized and enlarged here. Well, yes, there are different shapes. And it also adds some movement.
回転するような
And here it is spinning.
なぜかと言いますと、
And the reason behind is because drill is going to make a hole, but this is trying to drill the air or maybe the sky. And again, I am using iridescent pearl-scent colors here. And I'd like to give you some background on this. This is a pearl-like color. In 2010, I went back to Kuwait from Japan. One idea that has been very influential from Japan is the emphasis on ancestors. I think this is still a unique East Asian culture, thinking about ancestors all the time. Even though ancestors pass away, you still have quite a big influence by the ancestors in your lives. So after returning home, I started to think about my grandfather. I have never met him, and he was gone before I was born. But my dad always told me about my grandpa. He was a singer on a pearl hunting boat. In fact, in Kuwait and other Persian Gulf regions, pearl hunting was a central source of income in pre-oil history. It is an ancient history that dates back to thousands of years to an ancient Mesopotamia. So cultural events, songs, poems, and names of cities and people, it was really about pearls. It's really related to pearls. Pearl hunting is very hard work. The men would spend 6 months or so on a boat, and they go and deep dive to find pearls, natural pearls. Well, they have to remain calm, so that's why they need some entertainment, like singers. So the songs were almost labor music. Divers on board played the role of percussion together. So for instance, I actually am going to show some video. Sorry, the quality is not good. And in fact, in the 80s, the post-oil time I was born, so I think I only knew a world too far removed from my grandfather's. It was really unusually wealthy times, just like the bubble times in Japan. So maybe because of the oil shock in the 70s, Kuwait became quite wealthy country. And when I was young, I felt that maybe I had some uncomfortable with his life. Maybe this history was a lie, a fiction, something as a motif of some sort. So I began to wonder if it might be possible to restore this severed historical spelling, how I was able to connect myself to my grandfather. Then one day I had this epiphany. In fact, pearls and oil have the same color. So depending on the lighting, iridescence or dichroic color. Dichroic meaning that you see two colors at one shot. So it's really iridescent. So it's really hard to describe. So pearl is starting from the white to the darker color, and that's where you see the color or the rainbow of colors. And based upon this spectrum of shade, I began to create various works of art. First, a public art sculpture made in Dubai. It was an old port, and it was displayed next to the pearl hunting boat. So the boat, if the boat is the grandfather figure, then this drill is what I look like post oil, me as post oil baby. So in a sense, this is my own portrait or family portrait. That's how I saw this art piece. So we don't match each other, but I thought I was able to create some kind of magical historical harmony there. And unfortunately, the port was closed after that because it was in Dubai. And the work was destroyed because Dubai always needs a new building, so that's why we need to destroy a lot of different things or buildings. So I started to make my works smaller. I used 3D printing to create various iridescent drill pieces. And this is a piece called Orbit. We use the magnet so that drill can float in the air. And the biggest piece was the 5-meter drill called Chimera. It was displayed at the World Expo in Dubai. It's really huge. It's really big. And it's not just big. In fact, there are some very small art pieces as well. This is called Wonder. And this is a jewelry artisans. Together with the jewelry artisans, I used the natural pearl to curve as the shape of drill. It represents the way history has been transformed by oil. It was displayed in an artificial place in an aquarium. And also, not just the pearls, but the other pearls are also made as my art piece. This is not the pearl which you can actually find in sea, but this is a meteorite flying from the sky and found deep in the desert. And people assumed it was a burned pearl. So the myth is that the tribe once lived there. This is a desert. This is bigger than France. And in the myth, there is a tribe, and the tribe used to live in that location. They became very wealthy and lost their morals. God punished them and city burned. The story goes that the pearls the women wore around her neck turned black and it was scattered across the desert. So I made a video piece and a sculpture in the shape of the black glass pearl. And the video reads is actually video narration is done by the pearl. So because of the wealthy by oil, it will be punished. This is sort of the warning.
The reason is because in the past, such thing has actually happened in 1990 at the Gulf War. And I was only 7 years old then, and I have had to go through the beginning of the war and the end of the war. And I wanted to depart from reality. That is the reason why I wanted to escape to Japan. 700 oil fields. It was set fire. And after the war, we were living in the cloud of burned oil. For 2 years, we have to live in this environment. So the rains, the sea, the sky, everything was black. And it is an incident of human pollution. It's unprecedented in the history. 30 years still yet today, the environment have not returned to its original state. So this oil burned and set fire. This is the first time that the substance called petroleum and something that I can really see in my own eyes. So again, this year, I come up with a new art piece called Honest. On the highest floor of the museum, Honest is a title in Japanese that you are accountable for being a testimonial. When I was studying in Japan art school, there was a professor who showed me the war in Kuwait, and this is a lie. It's a artificial propaganda image, and I have taken that class. So, in terms of what I've seen in the landscape, was labeled as fiction, and all the students have believed that it was a fiction, and I was very sad and propelled, and I had to also question my own memories. So many animals, fish, birds, being filthy with oil. Is this really what's true or not? I have to doubt myself. And based on that, utilizing glass, which is so vulnerable, I decided to come with bird that is filled with oil and sludge. Such a devastating climate and environmental pollution. I have to prove myself that I have been the witness of this, and how at the same time your memories are so vulnerable and it's so much influenced by the others. So it's quite a big installation. There is also some audio, so I'd like to show this to you. So this concludes this part. And at Mori Art Museum, the new commissioned work, I would like to explain about this work. So the work, giving you the background and the context of that, the pearl and the iridescent color and pollution and wealth and some punishment from God. Everything is embedded in this work. So I'm sorry, it's a photo taken by the mobile phone, but a large pearl in a blue space is suspended like a ghost, like a specter from the ceiling. And when you go down beneath it, you can see some of the disturbing stories and narrative. So in May, I conducted a research, and then when I have come to Japan, and I visit the Mikimoto Cultural Pearl location, and this is in Mie Prefecture in Toba. It's a location That's well known, the reason why I was there. But right before the petroleum oil was exploited, because of the Japanese cultural pearl, our natural pearl industry had been destroyed totally by the cultured pearl. And to that end, I was very much interested on this story. So how humans are trying to cultivate pearls? How can this be done? I was very much interested, and I was following this story. And I went to the Pearl Island, and there is a Koichi Mikimoto special museum. And for a long duration of time, he has studied in cultivating pearls, and he has succeeded. And I was very much overwhelmed by his effort and passion. But the natural pearls, hold on. I'm sorry, I went too far. So in the natural pearls, the circle, a sphere pearl, a perfect sphere pearls, he had succeeded. And looking at how he had done so, human and artificial processes, creating ideal shape. Maybe it does even transcend the ideal, creating something very artificial. Looking at that, I thought the interference of human to nature is something that I've come to think. So a pearl-like natural product would have its intention of its own, and it may try to pay back on us. It's like a horror story, and they would hate humans. So this is the story that I wanted to create. So looking at them, 5 pearls, there's 5 persons, 5 of them. There are some chapters, and in terms of the 5 stories that are irritation, exploitation, manipulation, and degradation and transformation. So please listen to the story. It's like a spell. It is something of a disturbance that you would like to experience through my art piece. So that will be all. Thank you very much for being patient with me for so long time. It is a really, truly wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
So do you have some questions, or maybe we can just open to the public?
I think maybe I have one question.
Okay.
By the way, this was also one of these works which were really newly made for this show, and I have to say that the museum is really courageous, because in many cases we just didn't know until the opening what the artists would do for us, and so this is really fantastic, Monira. And I would like to ask you actually something, because you're such a nomad in terms of your biography and where you were living and so on. So where do you, maybe I'm asking you this stupid academic question, but where are you situating yourself, rather in this field of sculpture? What is your, are you opening up your own genre, so to speak? So, because I find it quite interesting there are so many connection points to art history, but how do you try to resonate with that?
I am originally a painter. It's very strange, and I used to be obsessed with animation. So I think of my work, even if it's a sculptural form, but because the color is moving and changing, that it is a kind of animation. Even now with the pearl artwork here at Mori, there's a story and a background and a kind of also filmic horror film kind of also animated movie, I think, feeling to the works. I always see this kind of painting, kind of animation as a base to my practice.
You were doing performance as well, no? By yourself.
Yes. But I don't like to, but I do it sometimes. I'm shy.
And you also collaborate with your sister a lot. She even did the soundtrack for it.
Yes, my sister is a very well-known musician, Fatima Al Qadiri, and we've been collaborating ever since we were this big, very young. And it's always almost like a telepathic relationship. Every time I'm working on a film or an installation, I asked her, do you have any music for this? This is the theme, this is the concept. And magically, it turns out she was working on the same thing. So we have a kind of in tune. Our minds are always in tune.
And also, like your eldest sister is dentist who was here yesterday, and also it's connected to the how to make this artificial cultured pearls we discovered at this Shinjuto, no?
Yes, exactly. Kokuchi Mikimoto had a friend who was a dentist. And he was looking for very, very sharp, but very, very sensitive, small, delicate tools to be able to kind of manipulate the shell and the animal in the shell to be able to produce a pearl. And his friend, who was a dentist, said, oh, we use this in dental surgery. And he gave him these dental tools. And actually, that was the first time he was actually able to grow the pearl, was using these dental tools. So it's strange how these things come together, really.
Yeah, maybe we open to the public if there are questions, comments.
ありがとうございました。
Well, thank you very much.
はい、実際に展示
So,
の
looking at the
ところに見た
actual
時に
sort of a space where your work was exhibited,
綺麗だな
at
って思っ
the
て
beginning it was very beautiful.
その紙を読んで
And reading the papers,
違う視点というか
I had a different
ちょっ
perspective.
とギュッてなるような
So, I was a little frightened. So,
一点質問
one question I have is that I myself,
北海道の結構田舎
I
出身で
was from a Hokkaido, suburban areas, surrounded by nature, and I have never been to urban cities, but I decided to come to Tokyo, and I live here, and I have seen this exhibition here at Mori. And it seems as though you talked about the oil, the petroleum industry, the wealth. It really is symbolic of the artificial building on the 53rd floor, looking at art pieces, kind of very strange in a way. So at this location,
そういう環境という
in those environments,
そのような
that exhibition,
どう感じているのか
what was your feeling? Frankly speaking, what was your sort of, how did you come up with this? In the contemporary world today, what we do as a practice is very absurd. It's non-realistic, absurd. So I am one of the artists, so I do understand that from the bottom of my heart. But the fact that pursuing the absurdness is all my art piece. Looking at the pearls is beautiful. It's shining and in a bright space. When you hear the sound, it's like a haunting or casting a spell, evil spell on you. And that is the differences. That's the gap. The real, of course, absurdness. We have a few absurd about living here today. So I'm not an activist or anything. I'm an artist and optimistic view. Not that optimistic view, but truly the glittering, beautiful world. There are deep sort of a darkness that resides with it. It's nihilism, ironical. So I don't think this would work. This too sort of a polarized world will not work. This is my feeling.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much.
質問としては、どう
To
いう世界を
ask questions,
望んでらっしゃる
what kind of world would you like to
どう
see?
いう人間になりたいのかな
What kind of human beings would you like to become?
と言いますのも、その
Why?
作品を拝見
Because when I see your art piece, I really see the darkness. It's really haunting. And I also write a poem, and I also am dealing with the jury. I happen to know this is pearl, so maybe the disturbance or slaughter or hell. Usually people are not able to write so many dark things like that. But when I see you, you are really charming. So there's a huge gap from what I see you and also what I saw in your art pieces. So what kind of a world would you like to see? Or what kind of world do you see? That's my question. Thank you. Well, yes, as an artist, just like poet, we are living in the emotions. We are living in the psychological emotions, both good ways and also bad ways. So this emotional landscape is something which we display or we demonstrate. That's my role as an artist. So in 10 years, 100 years from now, it's not something that is going to be something in 100 years from now, but I just want to live in the emotions. Well, yes, I also have the dark emotions, and I like having the dark emotions. I like villains. So it's really hard to say, but I like nihilism. Thank you very much. Well, as a human being, I actually like to acquire a lot of different humanities. So I am really interested in the darkness. Thank you. What I want to say more is I think Japanese horror is really unique. It's really interesting. And people like a general public may really believe in the ghost. I think our Japanese culture tend to believe in ghost. Well, from the foreign perspective, it was really strange at the beginning, but by living here in Japan for some time, I think, yes, I start to see it. Maybe there is a ghost. There is some spiritual, or maybe the curse. Well, it was really frightening. And this is really Japanese. And I wanted to express some sort of the Japanese nature in my art piece. Well, yeah, the title is The Disturbance. So, yes, it is kind of infiltration, but I said it's no. I said this is grudge. Well, yes, I think this is grudge. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Monira-san. Thank you.